I'd like now to introduce Vaughan Johnson, who is a member for Gregory and also the Shadow Minister for Police and Corrective Services. Thanks, Vaughan.
Recorder, eh? We're on tape. Chairman Cameron, thank you. First and foremost, if I can say thank you to Jenny and Graham Acton for the invitation to be here at Paradise Lagoon this afternoon. I also recognise my colleague, Senator Barnaby Joyce, and to each and every one of you special people here at Paradise Lagoon this afternoon for what I believe is a very important forum confronting your industry, our industry in our state and our nation ultimately. The most important factor, ladies and gentlemen, I believe, and I know that you've addressed many issues here this morning in relation to the AMLC and other governing bodies relative to the beef industry. There are many issues out there on a daily basis that I witness and see in my electorate of Gregory, which goes about 80k from just west of here, right through to the South Australian border. There's not too much of Western Queensland that I haven't represented, having come from Quilpie in the southwest, where I've lived all my life. Now I live in Longreach, so I see what's going on. But the important function is, and I remember back in late 88, 89, we were getting $1,000, $1,200 for bullocks out of Quilpie in those days, and you would have been here too. And at the moment, while the job's half right, we're still getting that sort of chaff. But the real fact of the matter is the cost escalation in contrary to what we're trying to achieve. When I was Minister for Transport and Main Roads in the state back in 96, 98, we had over 1,000 KL wagons in Queensland Rail Cattle Train Network. Today we have 500. You might have seen a letter I wrote to the Queensland Country Life a couple of weeks ago relative to how I saw it and how I see the issues. It's all very well being critical of the exercise, but I think at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to be able to put the measures in place how we're going to correct the anomalies. And my way of looking at the QR exercise, it's a mismanagement structure, and the structure has been mismanaged, as you're well aware. The whole operation's up for sale at the moment, unfortunately, but it's managed by the group network of ARG, Australian Rail Group, out of Perth in Western Australia. And the management there, I think, would know a lot about what's going on in the cattle industry in Queensland, the rail network in Queensland, and ultimately the meat processors in Queensland where those cattle have got to go. My suggestion was that we based, out of those 500 wagons, a couple of hundred in Townsville, a couple of hundred at Rocky, and probably another 100 down at Toowoomba to service that southwest line from Roma out to Quilpie. We've seen the first train out of Quilpie last Monday week in 12 months. We know the numbers that come off that northwest line. 300,000 head of cattle a year go through the yards there, at 350,000 a year go through the yards at Cloncurry, and another 157,000 last year out of Julia Creek. They are serious numbers. They don't go all on Queensland Rail, but they certainly, a lot of them go on road transport. And that's another area I'll canvass in the moment. The real issue here is not understanding and not identifying the logistics of the exercise. Many people think you can ring up and the organisers of the managers of the operation back in the southeast corner have not a bloody clue when it comes to managing the logistics of these exercises, these pastoral operations, whether they're in the northwest or the west, or whether they're around Clermont or wherever they are, where there's another big area for the carriage of cattle on QR. You've got to book that train ahead, you've got to book helicopters, you've got to book contract musterers, you've got to book road transport. The whole exercise is a logistical nightmare, and it works right down to the last minute. You've only got to get rain or something like that to bugger it up, and you know that as well as I do. And this has all got to be taken into account. Those meat processors, as Jeff Tees from Tees Brothers said to me, 60% of the cattle that they pull off that northern line goes on the back of QR. That's why it's so important to the ongoing viability of your livestock operations, and not only of your livestock operations, but the ongoing viability of our export earnings of this state. This is a $15 billion industry in Queensland, and an industry, and we might talk about mining and the royalties out of mining, but this is ongoing. This happens all the time. The people that are working in this great industry, the rural industries we'll talk about, is certainly one that is getting lip service from government everywhere. And I've got to say, even in my own side of the LNP, I'm sad to say that there's a lot of people there who don't have any comprehension about how this state works and how the operation works outside the southeast corner. And I get pretty wild when I think about the $3 billion in mining royalties that go back to the southeast every year, and we don't get a bent razoo out here. We've got driving hours restrictions on our road transport operation. We've got inferior road services. I just travelled the other day back up to Winton on that Landsborough Highway from Longreach. The potholes of that round one day go back next week and they're 8 feet long. And this is the situation we've got. 37% decrease in road funding for the main roads department budget this year in the central region. That is serious dollars when they're jacking out multi-billion-dollar operations in coal and also livestock earnings in export through beef and grain and wool and every other commodity that we produce. And to the real fact of the issue is the road transport industry, of which my family are integral players in Western Queensland. We have a situation now where the registration on a Type 2 road train has gone up as the 1st of July just now from just on $12,000 to $13,500. That's a 3-trailer configuration. A Type 2 road train's gone up similar to about $12,000, but the real fact of the matter is a B double has gone up to $15,000. That's probably the most important configuration that we see on our roads today to be able to access meatworks, sale yards and what have you. And a BAB quad, which is twice the length of a B double, has gone up to just on $24,000 as of the 1st of July. That is another impact, ladies and gentlemen, on our industry. That is another impact on your bottom line, and that's another impact on the profitability and the margins that we, when in government, can put back into services for your area in question and also deliver quality of life, whether it be through education, health or whatever, to our kids and to our families that live in these areas where we live and represent and try and derive a livelihood from. These are all factors and all issues, I've got to say, that confront us on a daily basis. And I know we don't have many numbers like myself outside the southeast corner, but I say to you here today, ladies and gentlemen, you won't insult me, but you'll insult me if you don't drive the agenda home to my party and drive the agenda home to the government that we need more attention to the issues confronting us. Just give you a little bit of an idea. In my electorate of Gregory, which covers from 80k just west of Rockhampton right through the South Australian border, there's 2 hospitals in that electorate where mums can give birth to their infants. One is Longreach, the other is Emerald. Emerald's got a cloud over it, 400 births there last year, and what an absolute sacrilege that is to think we've got all these young people in our region and they can't have their families in their local towns because we have a medical indemnity problem, because doctors are not a game to deliver babies because of that insurance problem that can come back and haunt them 18 or 20 years later. These are all issues that government have got to address. My side of government, my side of politics has got to address it too. If we are going to be fair dinkum, we have got to be realistic about the policies we put in place and about how we are going to correct the problem. The road transport industry, the costs there, the fuel costs, rail charge has gone up 12% as of the 1st of July, but I'll tell you one other, 4% have gone on that for fuel too, so in real costs, you've got fuel gone up, the whole charge there is 16%. These are issues that the bottom line of our cattle industry and our agricultural industry is affected by on a daily basis. Roads, rail and road transport, important issues. And I say to each and every one of you, and I say to the leaders of this forum here today, drive the agenda home to the leaders in the southeast corner and tell them we want some dollars back here so that we can keep these industries viable, operational and ongoing for these little kids like this little bloke over here when they take over in 15 or 20 years' time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to be here, and God bless you all.